Hey ho everybody, hello, how are you? It's Matthew Street and I am back for another video. Yes, again, it's been a long time. As I turn down the volume, always have to turn down the volume, you know. Darn YouTube, they try to flag you if you play too much, and I don't know half the time if the song's okay to play or not. But anyway, folks, welcome. So happy you're here, and I have a fun video today. This video I am very, very excited about. Oh my goodness. Let me start by saying this. I love the Go-Go's, okay? Nobody is a bigger fan of the Go-Go's than I am. It goes back to when I was 19, going on 20 years old, back in 1981. I was overseas in the service, serving in the UK, and the Go-Go's first album came out, Beauty and the Beat, and I fell in love with it. I fell in love with the band, and I love their brand of rock and roll and power pop. And I am so excited and happy that they are being inducted later this year into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Well deserved. So happy for the girls. Just great, great, great. And let me give you a little background. The Go-Go's, listen to these little stats here. All-female band who wrote, played, sang, signed to a major label, and had the first #1 album. Okay? That's quite an accomplishment. However, 10 years prior to the Go-Go's, there was another all-female rock and roll band who wrote, played, sang, and were signed to a major record label. However, the one stat they didn't have was they didn't have that brass ring. They didn't get the #1 album, okay? Yes, they had several top 100 singles. They had top 200 albums. Actually, they had 2 top 40 singles. And that is the band Fanny. Okay, I got my Fanny t-shirt on here. Fanny rocks. All right, love Fanny. Fanny's back, folks. Fanny were signed to Reprise and Casablanca Records back in the day in the early 70s, coming into the mid-70s. And let me tell you a little bit of my story with Fanny. Folks, it goes back to around 1974 or so. I'm fuzzy on the year, but I was watching either Don Kirshner's rock concert or the Midnight Special. Who remembers those two shows? And you know me with power pop. I, as a kid, loved the Raspberries. And the Raspberries were on one of those shows. Again, I can't remember which one. But along with the Raspberries that night was the band Fanny. And I remember seeing them and being intrigued by them and liking their music and thinking they were pretty cool. But I didn't think much more about it after that. Several years later, I'm in the service again, in the military, getting back into a lot of different music and that. And someone I knew had this album. Now, I don't remember if they had it on, I don't know, back then. This is going into the later 70s. They had Fanny's final album from 1974 called Rock and Roll Survivors. And I have mine still in the shrink wrap here. Their final album. And just to show you, for you record nerds like me, it's on an early Casablanca label. You can see they just printed the name of the album on there in silver. This is an early Casablanca label from 74, folks. Check that out. That's kind of cool to see. So anyway, they had this album, Fanny Rock and Roll Survivors, and I got into it. I dug it to the point that my buddy at the time made me a cassette tape of this album, and I used to play it all the time. I enjoyed it. Okay, so that's going into, now we're in the late 70s, coming into the early 80s. But then after that, I get out of the service, and Fanny albums back then, coming into the 80s, were not, I don't recall them being easily accessible, where you could just find one in a store or that. Certainly not on cassette, very hard to find, and that's what I was listening to a lot back then. And many, many years goes by, and I always thought the band was great. Then one of my viewers, not too long ago, by the name of Wink55, Rich, howdy Rich, how you doing, sends me a message. And he says, hey Matt, have you ever heard of the band Fanny? They rock. And I wrote back to Rich and I said, absolutely Rich, I remember Fanny. And Rich hooked me up, folks. He told me that their There's still stuff going on with them. You got to check out their music on YouTube. It's all over the place. They have a brand new documentary coming out in 2021 called Fanny, The Right to Rock. You can purchase some of their music again. It's available at their website, and I got all excited and pumped up again, folks. So happy that I could get back into this band. Now, they had their origin back in Los Angeles, back in the late 60s, coming into the 70s, just like the Go-Go's. LA seems to be the place. And they were signed in 1969 by Richard Perry. Now, that name should ring a bell with you Beatles fans out there, because Richard Perry, oh my goodness, among the many people he's worked with and produced over the years, he was one of the most renowned producers of the 70s and beyond that. But in the 70s, you're talking Harry Nilsson, Beatles fans, and how about the Ringo album, 1973? Ringo Starr, Richard Perry produced that album. So think about it. This guy was big time, and he signed the band, and he produced their first 3 albums, okay? Their first album, and again, the only vinyl I have is their final album from 1974, Rock and Roll Survivors on vinyl. But I do have all the CDs, and I'm going to tell you all about them. I'm going to put the link to their website with this video so you can go and purchase them and get them. But the first album was released on Reprise Records in 1970 called Fanny, with a very iconic album cover. Love that album cover, which has been recreated on my t-shirt here. Here's the back with the ladies. I'm going to tell you all about the band in a minute. I'm going to tell you who's in the band and what they do. And all right. And these are reissues, folks, on CD, and you get a really nice setup here. You get a new thick booklet with each one. You get bonus tracks. You get some new interviews with 3 members of the band on each of these CDs. I'll tell you about that. And it's just great. They're great, great, great packages, folks. So here's the first one from 1970, Fanny. Their second album from 1971, again on Reprise Records, called Charity Ball. Here's the back. Again, great bonus tracks on these. We go to the third album called Fanny Hill. 1972. What a great band, folks. Let me tell you, as I'm showing you these, they rock and roll. They're so talented. The fourth album from 1973, Mother's Pride. Now, this is a change with this album. The first 3 albums I showed you were produced by Richard Perry, who produced the Ringo 73 album. With this album, Mother's Pride, okay, Calico Silver and all you Todd Rundgren fans out there, Todd Rundgren produced this album. And I have to be honest with you, this is probably my favorite of all the Fanny albums. I love Mother's Pride. It's probably my favorite one. They also, a couple of years ago, when doing the CD reissues, came out with a new live album called Fanny Live, 1972. Great to have as part of the collection. Matter of fact, that's what I was playing when you first saw the opening of this video, because they do a great live version of the Beatles' Hey Bulldog on here, and Hey Bulldog studio version is also on one of their albums. But let's get back to the band a little bit. So the Go-Go's, the Bangles, the Runaways have all cited them as a major, major influence on their careers. Just a fabulous album. Now the band consists of, and I got this cool postcard here at the Fanny website, Fanny Rocks, which again I'm going to link to this video. But you have in the band here the original members: Nicky Barkley on keyboards, songwriter, singer. You have Gene Millington on bass guitar, vocals, songwriter. You have Alice DeBure, drummer, vocalist. And you have Gene's sister, June Millington, on lead guitar, singer, songwriter in the band. There they are, Fanny. Beautiful, beautiful postcard here. And mine happens to be signed by Alice, the drummer. Alice DeBure was kind enough to sign this for me. So thank you, Alice. And again, you can get all this cool stuff at the Fanny Rocks website, and I will link it. I know I keep saying that, but I want to promote this band, folks, because they are a fabulous band. They deserve our appreciation. They deserve our recognition for their groundbreaking, glass ceiling breaking achievements, in my opinion. I mean, yes, groups like the Joan Jett and the Blackhearts and the Bangles and the Go-Go's, they certainly smashed through that glass ceiling back in the day with their, smash records and top hits. But I'm sorry, Fanny cracked that ceiling big time, which allowed them to go through it. And unfortunately, Fanny didn't get the brass ring. They didn't get the #1 album. They didn't get, all the top 10 hits like those other bands, all-female bands did. But they absolutely started it all, folks, right here. The first all-female band to achieve so much and lay all the groundwork for all the female bands that came after them. And so what happened was, after the fourth album, Mother's Pride, June Millington and Alice DeBure, the drummer, left the band. And for the final album in 1974, you had Patty Quattro, who was Susie Quattro's sister. You all know Susie Quattro. And Bree Howard took over for drums right here for Alice, when Alice left at that time as well. And Patty Quattro was guitar and vocals. Bree Howard is a percussionist, drummer, singer. And both of them have great credentials, like the whole band does. But Bree Howard especially did a lot of live work doing percussion and drums with people like Carole King, Ringo, ELO, Glenn Campbell, Duran Duran. I mean, she's worked with numerous artists over the years. And the band did continue on after they broke up in 1975. They did continue on doing their own things. Some of them, like Nicky Barkley and June Millington, did solo stuff. Sometimes, like the two sisters, June and Jean, would get back together with Bree Howard or Alice on a couple of occasions and do some live stuff and work together. And very recently, in the last 5 years or so, Bree Howard and the Millington sisters got together and started a new little side project called Fanny Walks the Earth. And they did put out an album as Fanny Walks the Earth, if you want to check that out. But the big current news is that a brand new documentary about this band, well-deserved, called Fanny, The Right to Rock, has just been released in 2021. I believe right now it's available in Canada. So for all my Canada viewers, check it out. It should be available to you. But I'm praying and hoping it gets here to the United States, available to us as soon as possible, because I think the more people that see this documentary and understand the impact of this band has had on rock and roll will agree with me that although I'm happy the Go-Go's are getting into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Fanny should be there right alongside the Go-Go's. I'm sorry. They should have either been in much sooner or they should be in now, okay? So I know what influence do I have in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Zilch, I get it. But this band should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. When you look at the criteria of being in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame of groundbreaking music and having such an impact on society and music, and who better than this band right here for what they accomplished and achieved? And I just wish people would take notice of bands like this and realize that what they accomplished was just so amazing, and to see them not get the recognition they deserve is heartbreaking to me. But we're trying to do that by doing videos like this, by seeing this new documentary coming out, Fanny, The Right to Rock, or go to the Fanny website called Fanny Rocks, and you can get things like this. Alice runs the website. She's part of a fantastic podcast, which you can get over at the Fanny Rocks website. And it's quick hit and run, like 30-minute long podcast she does bi-weekly, and talking about Fanny, or they'll focus on certain songs or albums or members of the band. And it's great to see Alice still active in the band. And she wrote Rock On, Alice DeBure. She sent me her autograph, which I thought you'd love to see. And there's Alice behind the drum kit, Fanny. I'm just so, Alice is my favorite member of the band, so I was so excited and happy to have the ability to get something like this from her, signed picture, which I'm going to frame and hang up. So thank you, Alice, for your kindness in sending that autograph. And thank you so much for maintaining the Fanny Rocks website and providing all these reissued CDs and t-shirts and postcards and pictures and stickers. You can get everything over there, folks. So, folks, I just wanted to give some love to this great band, Fanny. I love them. One of my favorite female rock and roll artists of all time. Right up there, my top 1 or 2, you know. And I just want you to check them out. Please go to if you're a fan of music, you can get some of their vinyl used online. You can get brand new CDs with bonus tracks over at the Fanny Rocks website. The first album, the second album, okay, the third album, and the fourth album. You can get them, folks. You can get the live in concert 1972. Head over to Fanny Rocks, folks. Head over there. Say hello to Alice. Say hello to the gang and the podcast. And tell them Matthew Street sent you. I'd appreciate it. And I know Fanny and the members of the band would appreciate it. Just to give you a little update, Alice runs the website and she does the podcast. So you can definitely, you know, see what Alice is doing and hear from Alice over at the podcast. I know Gene and June Millington have had some health issues over the last couple of years. Praying for them, hoping they're doing well and getting better. I know Nikki Barkley kind of moved to the other side of the world. I believe she lives in Australia now. And she's not really involved in band activities anymore. But really, really well deserved that they're getting this documentary done about them. And I just hope it brings some attention to them. And perhaps next year, you know, smarter heads will prevail and put them in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame because they deserve it, folks. So again, folks, bless you all. Bless the members of Fanny. And a personal thank you to Alice for sending me some really cool stuff here. Get it all at the Fanny Rocks website, folks. Check it out. Fanny, true pioneers, true trendsetters and groundbreakers. The first female rock and roll band, all female, who played, sang, wrote, signed to a major record deal. Fanny. Check them out, folks. Bye-bye.